The European Commission is expected to set next year's fishing quotas, with politicians and scientists arguing about how much is too much. The quotas are meant to be governed by scientific advice on the maximum sustainable yield, but EU member states have failed to embrace those changes in practice, with decisions being taken on countries' perceived self-interests rather than the best long-term plans to conserve stocks. Shona, our correspondent, joins us now from Brussels with more on this story. Morning to you, Shona. So we've just heard there the battle between politicians and scientists. How likely is it that EU member states will listen to the calls from scientists, or will they just be motivated by their own self-interest?
Well, indeed, EU ministers committed over 5 years ago to end the process of overfishing. And this morning they've emerged from 2 days of talks saying that they've been able to strike a balance to increase stock replenishment and at the same time increase quotas, which are sustainably allows for more fishing. But oceanic conservationists say that this isn't really possible and that they're not following scientific advice. I'm joined now by Rebecca Hubbard, who's Programme Director of Agrifish. Rebecca, what is your reaction to this morning's statement from the EU ministers saying that they are going to be able to increase quotas on certain fish, but at the same time maintain sustainability?
Well, we're obviously extremely disappointed actually with the fisheries ministers. Not only have they continued overfishing and broken their own legal deadline of 2020, but they are really missing a global golden opportunity to deliver decisive emergency climate action right now that the EU Council leaders have been talking about wanting to do.
Well, they say that in certain fish stocks, like mackerel, haddock and various other things, that there's been quite an increase of stock replenishment. So, increasing the quotas and allowing fishermen to fish more is sustainable.
Look, for some fish stocks, it's possible to increase the quota and follow scientific advice. But there is scientific advice for many fish stocks which are unfortunately in very poor condition after being overfished for many years. And the fisheries ministers have again chosen to ignore that scientific advice, break their own deadline and continue overfishing. And that not only goes against the legal deadline of the European Common Fisheries Policy, but it goes against what EU citizens want. Over 500,000 citizens have signed petitions calling for action to end overfishing. And it also is in stark contrast to the commitments that the EU Council have made recently about their ambition to deliver emergency action against the climate crisis, because the ocean is critical.
That's what I was going to ask you. So how does this complement the Green New Deal, or does it contradict, like you said, what was agreed at the European Council meeting last week?
Well, the ocean is our biggest ally against climate change. It's absorbed over 90% of the excess heat and 30% of our CO2. So we need a healthy ocean in order to survive generally on the planet, but also to deal with the climate crisis. And fishing is the biggest impact on the ocean, and scientists and leaders have all urged that we must act to eliminate that threat and rebuild the ocean.
So just to clarify then, Rebecca, if you say that ministers have actually failed to reach their own target of ending overfishing by 2020, what is the impact on fish then, I suppose, for the long term?
Well, what we're seeing is a decline in many fish stocks, and that isn't just bad for the health of the fish populations and the ocean ecosystem. It's also bad for fishermen and our coastal communities, because the longer you delay ending overfishing and rebuilding those fish populations, the longer you delay the benefits, and there are many social and economic benefits as well as environmental benefits.
Rebecca Hubbard, Programme Director of Agrifish, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Back to you in studio, Rosie.
Shona, our correspondent live in Brussels. Thank you.